Welcome to Sage 50 Mastery course here in Mirademi. We're excited to have you on board. In today's lesson, we'll be looking at a crucial aspect, which is expense management. Before we move into Sage, where we are going to do the practical application, what is expense management? Expense management is the process of keeping track of all the costs your company incurs, like rent, utilities, supplies, and travel. No matter what industry you are in or what job you have, managing expenses is a key part of keeping your finances in order. Whether you are a student, aspiring accountant, or business owner, understanding how to record and manage expenses ensures you are financially organized. In today's lesson, you will learn how to record both expenses you pay immediately and expenses you pay later. Today's lesson will show you how to do this efficiently. But first, you need to know why expense management is important. Expense management is important because it helps you track spending. With expense management, you will always know how much you are spending and where. Expense management helps you in budgeting. It keeps you on top of your budget so you don't spend more than planned. Expense management helps in decision making. When you understand your expenses, you make better financial decisions. Expense management helps in tax benefits. Accurate records can help you get deductions at tax time. No matter the industry or profession, everyone needs to understand how to control costs effectively. When we look at different fields, in the field of accounting and finance, tracking expenses is crucial for preparing financial statements and ensuring compliance. For retail business, managing your stock purchases, rents, and utilities helps retailers maintain profitability. When it comes to healthcare, hospitals and clients must control costs like supplies, staff salaries, and utilities. When it comes to education, schools and universities need to track their operational costs to manage budgets. When it comes to those who are into consulting or freelancing, freelancers and consultants need to monitor business-related expenses like client meetings, office supplies, and travel. With this, you can see that expense management indeed is important. Right now, we'll move to Sage 50, where I will show you different ways in which you can record your expenses based on how and when you pay. Please join me as we use the Mira Global Services Limited case study for this practical application. So right now, we have a scenario. Let's say Mira Global Services Limited rents office space in Lagos State, Nigeria, and buys office supplies. They need to record rents and supplies as expenses. So the first thing you have to do is to record expenses for Mira Global Services. Now, in my trainings, I always break down expenses into two types. Expenses you pay immediately and expenses you pay later. I know in Sage 50, there is a particular feature we call the payment feature, which you will find when you come to the tax menu. Scroll down, you will see payments, you click on it. Of course, that feature is very helpful, especially when you are recording payments, anything payments, which we know you pay for expenses. But apart from coming through the payments feature, there is two other features which this very lesson will focus or draw our attention to. The first I call the Mr. Pay Immediately. The Mr. Pay Immediately is a feature we call the write check. Come with me to tax menu. Just after payments comes write check. Click on it. I call this feature the Mr. Pay Immediately. You are to use this when you pay for something on the spot, like buying office supplies or paying a vendor immediately. The second feature that I would like to draw your attention to is what I call the Mr. Pay Later. Come with me to visit Mr. Pay Later. Come and click on the tax menu, scroll down, and you will find this very feature called Enter Bill. So can you see bills among the options? Move your cursor, you now see Enter Bills. So the Enter Bills is the Mr. Pay Later. This very feature is for expenses you will pay in future, like receiving an electricity bill that is due next month. You come here, you enter it as a bill. You can as well make payments at the same time using the amount paid at purchase field box. But however, we use it for those expenses incurred but will be paid for later. So now, let's apply the scenario we have. So let's record expenses you pay immediately using write check. So when Mira Global buys office supplies and pays the vendor immediately, go to tax menu, scroll down, click on write check. When write check window opens, the first thing you have to do, select the vendor. We are talking about office supplies. So you click on the icon here. The vendor is Supermart NG. So select Supermart NG. So we are saying Mira Global buys office supplies from Supermart NG. So you choose the vendor you are paying. Then come over here, provide a check number, select the dates when this transaction was made. So we can say September 21st. Here, where we have the amounts is where you enter the amounts. So let's assume it's 20,000 naira. So say 20,000 naira. Payment method, we'll come down and select the payment method, whether it's cash or bank. Say check for bank. Then the account this money was paid into, we'll come over here and we'll select it. Say First Bank. Memo, which is description. You write a brief description, can say being payments for office supplies. Once you are done with this, you go through review to be sure it's accurate. Once you're sure that it is accurate, come down and then allocate these expenses. You don't stop here and save. No, you must allocate the expense. So when you come below, this is where you allocate the expense. Over here, this is where you allocate the expense. So you have to come over here and select the right expense account. So when you click on it, you then see the right expense account. You say office supplies. So select it, office supplies. Once you have done this, you then save the transaction. To do that, come up and click on save. If you want to print, you print, but we'll say save. That way, you have just recorded this expense and you have also at the same time made payments immediately. So when you click on list to confirm, you find out that it is here, going to appear here for you. Select the vendor. Range. Now you'll be wondering, over here is blank. Why? The date range here is 1st of January 2024 to 31st of January. Whereas that transaction was recorded 21st of September. So you don't have to panic. Always confirm. So come to date range. Instead of this period, change it. Scroll down and make use of from 1st of January period down to December. So you have your complete set. But rather, if it's by months, you select here. Okay, you can say this year to date. And you find out that it's now reflecting. Or you can decide to select the month of September only. So whichever way you want to do it, you have it reflecting, right? And this is it, the 20,000 naira captured. And I told you all in one of the previous lessons that where you are not comfortable with the columns displayed, you can adjust it by clicking on settings. So you can now move those you need. For instance, there is no description to tell us what each payment actually is meant for. So it's always important, clarity. So what do? You come over here and click on memo. Click on add. Select description and also add. Select expense account and also add. So whatever you move to the selected columns field is what appears. Available columns means these are what are available, but you must take it to the selected section for it to reflect. Then you click on OK, and you can now see the adjustments. We can now say, oh, so this is to Supermart. This is to Giant Travel. This is the accounts. This is what it's meant for. Understandability is important. Your work must be clear, because when we talk about characteristics that are necessary, especially even of financial statements, understandability is one of them. So your work must be clear, as all these are useful. We'll talk about more in our next 2 lessons to come, which is on generating key financial reports. So once this has been done, awesome. Now, let's talk about this next scenario. Let's assume if you buy office furniture and pay for it immediately, which method will you use? Let me just give you a quick quiz. Which method will you use? The write checks, right? Good. So the write check method records that transaction and you can track how much you spent. So scenario 2 is recording expenses you pay later using Mr. Enter Bills. For expenses like rent that you receive a bill for and pay later, how do you record it? Go to tax menu, scroll down, come to bills, move your cursor and select enter bills. Choose the vendor you are paying. We say XYZ Rentals. Then add an invoice number and also enter the amount. We say 100,000 for rent. GL accounts. Select the GL accounts. Rents. You can see it popped up because it has already been associated to that vendor when the vendor was set up. You can also work on the terms of payments by clicking at this arrow. It brings you here so you can set up display terms. Say okay. Once you're done, ensure to allocate the expense by coming over here, the GL account field. Once this is done, since it's not paid for, take note of the dates. Ensure the date is captured. Ensure also the A/P account, of course, will be there, which is taking care of your accounts payable. Once this is done, the vendor balance displays 0 below. We are not owing them since we have not saved this bill. So once you're done with all this, you come over and do what? You click on save. That's all. If you go to list, find out that it's there. You can see it. It's showing past due because we are no longer in January. And that's it. So when you are ready to pay, you now go to tax menu. Scroll down. You see payments. You then select the vendor. We say XYZ Rentals. And the moment we do that, you notice the outstanding appears, which is the bill you want to pay. And then since you're paying the complete amount, you come over and tick on pay. And you find out that it fills all around. You provide a reference ID. You provide memo. You say being payments. Being payments for rents, office rents. Which accounts is this money paid from? You come to the cash account box and select the accounts. We say our First Bank accounts. That's all. Once this is done, you come up and click on what? Save. And there you have done that. You have recorded that payment. So the payments we came through is still the same with coming over to pay bills, which you can find also on your tax menu. You come to bills, pay bills. So if you don't want to use payments, you can go through bills, come down, click on pay bills, and it still brings you to that same payments window Although this very payment window applies directly to expenses, while the other is for purchases. Okay, but whichever you want to use does the same job. However, when you're making the payment, if your choice is to use the enter bill for payment you pay later, I will always advise whenever you want to now make the payment, leave these other payments. Let this be meant for your purchases. For expenses, come to bills and choose pay bills. And of course, you notice even in your vendors model, you still find enter bills and pay bills. And let me throw another question across to you. So with this lesson now, when you receive a rent bill for your office, but don't pay immediately, what will you use? Enter bills to record the amount and then come back later to pay using what? Pay bills when it is due. So before I leave you here in this lesson, what are the key features in Sage 50 for expense management? If you have noticed, one of the features we always go to is to allocate the expense account. So expense account is a key feature you must note. So what is expense account about? Expense accounts are categories that help you organize your spending. They help you organize your spending. You might have accounts for rent. You might have accounts for utilities. You might have accounts for maintenance. Expense accounts. You might have accounts for office supplies. They are all expense accounts. The second key feature, as far as expense management in Sage 50 is concerned, is what we call vendors. Sage 50 lets you assign expenses to specific vendors. This makes it easy to track who you owe money to and who you have paid. And you can see it over here. Another important feature is what we call the recurring expense feature. Now, this feature is a feature that will be talked about in some other lessons to come. But you can see a little tab at the top. You can set up recurring expenses like monthly rents, so that Sage 50 automatically reminds you when it's time to pay. And this is the feature you use for that. The last feature, of course, all others are important, but these are main features, is what we call the report feature here. You use these reports to generate your expense reports. And a better way to access them completely is to come over to the reports menu at the top. If you come over to the reports menu at the top, you can click on your financial statements, which brings you here, and you can run down through any of these reports. For instance, if we come over to our income 12th period and I click on OK, if I come over to options, I'll be able to take away print page numbers. I'll be able to take away show zero amounts, and then I click on OK. And what do you find out? You find out in period 1, you see what we have. So run down to expenses and you'll find the rent of 100,000. Can you see that? The office supplies you recorded was posted to September. So that's the reason why, if you must see that, you must come over to period 9, which is September, where we have it as what? 20,000. And you can double click on each amount which takes you to the accounts ledger, the general ledger accounts, and you can view that effectively. Payments to Supermart for office supplies. So you use Sage50's powerful reporting features to generate your reports. And these are the reports that help you spot if you have any overspending, and maybe you want to track cash flow, or maybe you also want to make better financial decisions. Come over to General Ledger Reports, scroll down to Transaction Detail Reports. Open these very reports. You'll also be able to view this is a payment to Giant Travel Tours. And like I told you, each time you want to make any adjustments, all you have to do is to click on Options on the new window that pops up. You'll see this area where we have select a filter, and you can select the means by which you want to filter your accounts, and you also be able, instead of this date being today, and that's the reason why we're having just that payment to Giant Travel. So you can change it to all, or you use range, or you use quarter. You click OK. You now have complete detailed report for all your transactions from beginning till dates. And you can see every information here. So you can see that all of these are important. Everything here is important. You can also go through all this during your practice time. So once you record your expenses, you can see your expenses. So today's lesson applies to any business or profession. Whether you're tracking the cost of materials, rent, or labor, expense reports are critical to managing finance effectively. No matter what industry you are in, knowing how to manage expenses will help you control costs, make smarter decisions, and keep your business or work efficient. So if you happen to be in the construction industry, you know that you have to track material costs, you have to track labor, you have to track project expenses to avoid overruns. And all these are important. So I want to leave you with key takeaways. Whether you pay now or later, make sure every expense is recorded. Second takeaway, use the right method. I always tell my students, for immediate payments, use write check. For bills you pay later, use enter bills. And when you pay later, use pay bills. Immediate, use write check. When you are done, review reports. Always check your reports to see where your money is going. A quick way to do that also is to utilize what we call the business status feature at the top here. Business status. It gives you quick insight into how your business is doing. Business status. Powerful tool. So if I click on it, I can see my account balances, revenue to date, can scroll down, can also view account variance reports when compared with your budget, can edit your budget, can also scroll down to see other tiles. Okay, scroll and scroll down. You can see other tiles. And the good thing is you can also customize all of this. You can find any reports here through this find a report section. All you have to do is to click on category, and then you select the category which you want to use. So we can say financial statements. Which reports? You click on the drop down and then you select the reports. So we can say, okay, I'm looking for my income statements, and then click on what? Display, and it will be displayed for you. Okay, so we'll close this. So managing expenses is important. Of course, you can customize this by clicking customize, then you select those features you actually need to be active over here, including all of this. So as I was saying, managing expenses is not just a business task. It's a key to financial control and success. No matter your profession, managing costs will help you stay profitable and informed. I will always tell my students that to manage money well is to manage success well. Keep track of every cost, and you will always know the true value of your work. See you in next lesson, where we talk about payroll and employee management. Thank you.